Hello and welcome to this short video to get you started with using Snap Science in your school, either as part of a free trial or perhaps as a new subscriber or user. My name is Bryony and I'm one of the authors from the Snap team, and this video is designed for you to get going. So stop whenever you want and connect in with your own version so you can make that personal to you. This video will just concentrate on the Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 year group planning, and we'll just be looking at the Teach tab for this video. You perhaps might want to use snippets of this video with colleagues as part of an introduction or a launch of Snap in your school, and we suggest you are logged in at the same time. So welcome to the Collins Connect platform, where you'll find everything you need to teach your science lessons using Snap Science. I'm going to be using this section here, Teach, and I'm going into look at year 6 as our example. And I'm scrolling straight past all the lessons right down to this section at the bottom called Additional Teacher Material. We'll come back to the lessons shortly. This is a bit that's often overlooked, but is the most important section for you as a subject leader and for getting started with using Snap. So I'm going to concentrate on the module overview chart, the resources matrix, and the timetables to begin with. So we're going to come back to some of the others at the very end, just to give you a bit more of a flavour of what else is here. I'm going to start here with the timetables. The timetables are available in single year groups or in mixed year groups. And the whole idea of this is your long-term plan. It gives clear guidance as to what lessons are needed, in which order, to cover the core content of the national curriculum. But there's lots more there. One of the things teachers love about Snap is the fact there are lots and lots of lessons to choose from. What we've done with these long-term plans is take it down to these are the ones you need to teach, and teach them in this order. And there's more there for enriching, extending, further support, or anything else if the children haven't got it. Make sure your colleagues are aware of this document before they just start module 1, lesson 1, and worry that there's 12 lessons to teach. They don't have to teach them all. So I'm going to scroll down to year 6 as this example, and I'm looking at this long-term overview here of year 6. So we can perhaps suggest that in autumn we might do the Everything Changes module, which is linked to evolution, the Light Up Your World module, perfect to do at that time of year. And then in the spring, we might look at body pump, and then the electricity module, and then nature libraries, the classification topic, and then body health is the other part of the humans learning, and you can see how that's all organised. So in terms of body pump, this is the module we're going to focus on to exemplify everything today. You can see the order is 1, 2, 4, and 5. So we're suggesting there are about 4 lessons to be taught to cover that element of the human, animals including humans, bit of the year 6 curriculum. You might want to stop the video here and scroll and look through these long-term plans, either mixed or single year groups, to see your own year group or a different one other than year 6. The next one I'm going to go into is the module overview chart, this one here. So here's the module overview chart for year 6. Really helpfully, you get the overview of the module name and number, the name of the lesson. You might note quickly that they're all questions, so the children can find an answer or come up with an answer or present an answer to that question during the lesson. The national curriculum content, the knowledge part of the science curriculum, the working scientifically part of the curriculum, the scientific inquiry type, and a quick lesson summary. So I'm going to use year 6 module 2 body pump as the example. And if you remember from the long-term plan, it said we should look at lesson 1 and 2 and 4 and 5. I'm going to particularly focus on what is in blood, lesson 4, to exemplify this today. So the substantive knowledge that we need to do is identifying and name the main parts of the circulatory system, and we're particularly thinking about the functions of blood. That's what this lesson is about. So we're not ignoring that stuff, but we're particularly thinking about the function of blood. Then our working scientifically type statement is about presenting findings, results of findings. And then our secondary source of information is our inquiry type. And in this lesson, children are going to be making blood soup as an illustrative practical to help them find out about the functions of different parts of the blood and its role in carrying oxygen, waste gases, etc., through the preparation of a fact file. So just by glancing here, I've got a really clear idea of what that lesson might look like. And the same obviously with 1, 2, and 5. So the next section I'm going to go to from within this, still in the additional teacher material, is the resources matrix. The resources matrix is a really helpful one-stop shop to give you the preparation you need to help you get your idea of your lesson in order. It's an at-a-glance document, but I have got a warning. Don't blindly start prepping everything on this list before you open the lesson plans, because once you start crafting your lesson, you might decide that actually you don't want to do that particular aspect, or you don't want to use that challenge, and therefore some of the resources might be redundant. I think it's worth noting at this point that a science lesson is not something that you can pick up at 12:30 and teach at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. A great science lesson will always need resources, and those do take time to prepare. We don't shy away from that, and that's absolutely why this resources matrix gives you that heads up. So I'm going to scroll, as I have done so far, all the way down to module 2, which is our body pump module. And as you know, we've been talking about lesson 4 so far. What is in blood? So I can see, oh, look, I'm going to be needing to go to the supermarket and do one of those things where I get to the checkout and the person on the checkout says, got a party, as you've bought 3 bags of jelly, marshmallows and some orange squash. And then you choose whether to say, actually, no, I'm a teacher, or yes, I'm having a party. I dodge between those two. So plasma, we're going to be using squash, we're going to be making red blood cells from jelly, we're going to be using white blood cells, using marshmallow, and then some rice for platelets. And it gives me a really clear idea of what I might need. It doesn't tell me how much of this I need though, so of course my lesson plan will support me with that. Again, you might want to stop the video here and go back and have a look at that series that I've just talked you through with this particular lesson for a different year group or for a different topic within year 6. Okay, so now we're ready to start having a look at the lesson plans. Now, I've already noted we're going to be looking at body pump, and it says here, oh, there's 8 lessons, but we already know from the long-term plan that actually we don't need to teach all of those to teach the core content, but it's reassuring to know there are more lessons available. One of those numbers is actually not a lesson, it's the module overview. So there's 7 lessons, we're going to teach 4 of them, there's 3 spare if I need them to teach more. And when you open the module, you'll see there's a module introduction, and then each lesson has its own folder. So I'm going to start by looking here at the module introduction. So the module introduction is a free bit of professional learning. It's really helpful to share with other adults who will be working with your class during this topic, and for yourself to do some pre-reading. In the introduction, there's always a connection to prior learning. So if you teach in year 6 and you're not sure where other bits of humans have occurred in the learning sequence in school, you'll be able to pick that up here. So for example, in module 3, which is coming up later on, you'll get the other bit, and you might also know where the learning started in Key Stage 1 and Lower Key Stage 2. Really helpful. You've got some key vocabulary that covers the whole of the topic. You've got a simple fact file, which these are absolutely brilliant. They're so helpful. You've got a simple diagram of the heart and blood vessels. Common misconceptions. The more you are prepared for things that children may or may not know before the topic, the better prepared you are to handle those when they arise in lessons. The heart shape is a classic example, and tubes and how things are connected are things that children might have. There's also, where relevant, connections to Collins Big Cat books, another resource produced by Collins. Again, you might want to stop the video here and go and have a look at another module overview for another topic that you're about to teach, or in a different year group, or another year group in year 6. So once I've done that, I'm really prepared now for my lessons. So I've looked at the long-term plan, I know whereabouts and which number of lessons. I've looked at the module overview, which gives me like a medium-term snip of what might happen, and I've had a look at my resources. I'm prepared, and I've done a bit of reading. I know what my topic is about. So imagine now we've taught lesson 1 and we've taught lesson 2, and we're ready for this lesson 4. So here is a lesson plan. Here is a snap lesson plan with lots of space around the outside for you to make your scribbles, and spaces at the bottom. These are designed to be active and hands-on lesson plans. So this one, we already know lots of information by the time we open this because of the route we've taken to get here. We already know the lesson title. We've already had a brief overview of the lesson summary. We already know which national curriculum links are here, which working scientifically links are here, which inquiry type is here, what resources we're going to need, and the vocabulary that's covered. So just in this top part of the lesson plan, we're already here. We already know what's coming. The new parts here that we haven't seen yet are a learning intention, if that's how you use things in school, and some success criteria, if that's relevant to how you deliver and teach your science lessons too. What's really important is to notice within the learning intention these active verbs. In this case, it's identify. So during this lesson, the children should be identifying the contents of and describing their functions. So there's 2 active verbs in this learning intention, which you should see come to prominence during this lesson: identification and describing the function. On the left-hand side, you'll find lots of extra boxes. There's health and safety references, there's KIs, key information boxes, all of which are really, really important that you take a glance through too. They're the additional information, the little snippets, and they're placed at the correct point within the lesson plan so that you know that they're connected to the bit you're just reading on the right-hand side. So SNAP lessons are organised into 3 parts. Firstly is the explore part. Hopefully you can see this clearly here. This explore, or all explores, are practical activities to engage children in the learning, for teachers to elicit starting points and stand back and watch and listen and hear where the children are. These might connect back to earlier learning in the module or other modules or other year groups already. So the teacher's got a really clear idea of what the children already hold in terms of knowledge or skills, and are then ready to assign the appropriate challenge in the main part of the lesson. The inquire part of the lesson is differentiated 3 ways to meet the learning intention. It is not the intention that you teach all 3 challenges or that you use all 3 every single lesson, but they are there if you want them. So challenge 2, which I'm going to scroll down to first, challenge 2, in this case, complete a fact file about the 4 parts of blood for use in an emergency. Challenge 2 is for a typical, in this case, year 6 child, if there is such a thing, that you would expect to be able to arrive at this lesson with some background knowledge, perhaps, but perhaps some misconceptions, and that would be your sort of typical class. Challenge 1, in this case up here, challenge 1 has a little bit more support and framework, usually to support with perhaps independence or literacy and numeracy skills, but still meeting the same learning objective, learning intention. And then challenge 3 assumes more independence, more general knowledge, more higher maths and English skills, and that will very much depend on your cohort. And in some lessons, you might have several challenge 3 children, and in other lessons, you might have none, and everyone working at challenge 1. That's not necessarily a bad thing. These are just 3 different ways for children to meet the learning intention. There's then a reflect and review session, which very much like the engage at the beginning, it's a practical activity giving you a chance to notice learning and perhaps gaps in learning. Then there's the evidence of learning, which is a clear narrative for teacher reflection. Usually, I find after the children have left the classroom, sit down and read this, perhaps alongside the children's work and outcomes, and really consider, have they got it? Do I need to go back and do some more on this? In which case, I know there's lots more SNAP lessons that I can draw on for that. Or I might want to repeat some of the lesson that I've just taught, if I've got big chunks of my class who haven't got it. Again, you might want to stop the lesson here and have a little look at your own year group or a different lesson plan. Now, some resources, can you see these bits in brackets here where it says challenge 3, resource sheet 3? Some of our challenges come with additional resources. So in this case, I have picked this resource, which is challenge 1. This is to support challenge 1, and it's resource sheet 1. And this lesson, Blood Soup, asks the children to use secondary sources, usually predetermined by the teacher. So we don't spend endless hours on internet search engines, not finding things that we need. And it gives them the 4 main parts of the blood in an illustrative form here, and a conversation needs to be had about what each of these represents and what it is you expect the children to find out. We want to know what the job is of that part of the blood, what size is it in comparison, often that's in percentage terms, and a further fact, and that can be something of interest, it can be something of note, it can be very much in the children's choice. When they have found out, for example, what red blood cells do, what job they are, what size they are, and an interesting further fact, they can come to my blood bank. And my blood bank is a table set up somewhere in the classroom where I've got all the pieces of the blood to make their blood soup, including a Ziploc bag. And they might come to me and say, oh, I found out what red blood cells are. Please, may I have, I need 3 jelly cubes or whatever they've decided they need in their Ziploc bag. And that's an opportunity for you to quiz and question and chat and check. So tell me your interesting fact. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that today. Hadn't heard that one. Or size, proportion, and some of them will get that wildly wrong to begin with, and then they might come back later on going, actually I need another 12 jelly cubes, or actually I need to give you 6 back, and that's all part of their understanding. So I encourage them to do that bit by bit rather than all come and join a queue at the end going, I need all 4 parts. And I very much practically encourage them to get the plasma, the orange squash, at the very end, because the minute they've got some liquid in that bag, it's a bit messy. But as soon as they've created their blood, they've got their fact file, they've got their notebook, and they're ready to go. It's worth pointing out that all of our resource sheets come in PDF and Word. So as a teacher, you can edit them if you like, you can just print them as they are, and it's completely your call as to whether you use them or find them useful. Again, you might want to look at another lesson and stop the video here to explore those things. Okay, very briefly then, I'm going to go back to these additional teacher material box. So I've focused first of all on module overview, resources matrix, and timetables. I'm going to briefly touch on now progression charts, working scientifically, CPD slideshows, and Our Changing World diaries. There's lots more, as you can see. Those are the ones you might want to know next after you've found your way into a lesson plan. So first of all are our progression charts, and these are around the big ideas of science. You may have heard that phrase used before, the big ideas of science that will be here for living things to survive, the importance and the connection. Again, I'm using that year 6 example, and over here I can find this statement here. This is not the national curriculum, these are taken from the big ideas of science. The oxygen is taken into the blood, but you can see where the connections are. That some work around keeping healthy, which you'll be able to make those connections if you teach body health later on, or if you've taught it earlier, then you'll be able to make those connections. And you can see where that comes back to year 2 and being healthy. And you can see where this one comes from year 1, animals including humans, around structure and parts of the body. Skeletons and muscles in year 3 is another. 2 more body systems, the circulatory system being one, the muscular system, skeletal system studied in year 4, and then of course the digestive system, of which the teeth are part of, is studied in year 4. So we've got year 1 connecting, year 3 connecting, year 4 connecting, all building into this quite complicated thing in year 6 around the circulatory system of humans. So those are there all the way through all the topics. Really helpful as a subject leader to get that overview. We also have working scientifically progression charts, which are these 3 boxes are key stage 1, lower key stage 2, upper key stage 2, and the way in which children study and carry out inquiry, including the 5 types of inquiry, which are mentioned in all 3 of these boxes. Moving on then to asking questions, planning, collecting data, and presenting data. And the bit that we were using in that example, that year 6 example, is here. It's about presenting data. So that recording sheet that was there, the resource sheet that was there for use, was to support the children's presentation of their findings. All there for you. The next resource is the CPD slideshows, and you'll notice there are 5. They're all in PowerPoint, easily editable, easy to use. And you may, as a subject leader, want to use those as your colleagues are getting going with SNAP. So there's this one here is little snippets of what we've just been talking about today, but you can voice over that yourself. You might want to use those slides. You might want to talk about working scientifically and inquiry types and how they're used in SNAP, differentiation, planning, and then there's some work on assessment not covered in this video. But the other 4 are all more detailed versions that you might want to use with colleagues, but they're there, they're free, and they're available to you to use as you wish. And finally, I want to draw your attention to the Our Changing World diaries. You can get them in PDF or Word, either as a booklet print, if you want to actually print them all the correct double-sidedness, or you just want to print off a couple of pages of them. Again, I've taken the Year 6 one. We have one of these for every year group. So we really, through using SNAP, encourage children to go outside and spend at least one lesson outside on a very regular basis throughout, all the way from the seasonal change topics in Year 1, where they're outside every 2 to 3 weeks, and then all the way up to Year 6, where we're suggesting there's perhaps 3 or 4 visits a year. And this diary can structure the work the children do, and it's connected to the Our Changing World module. So you can see the front pages around the specific location that the children would go and study over time. And in this example, there's some data to collect around weather, and then again, visit 2 and again, visit 3, all about, and then you're starting to look at birds and signs of spring, and then we've got some more things where you're looking for those things but how they might have moved on, and then the final one is looking at vertebrate trapping and how you might use that, which would be all connected to the work on Nature Library, but it clearly points out which lessons they are for which page, and that's a final resource you might want to be aware of. Now, there's lots of things we haven't covered in this short video, but we hope that's enough to get you going, to get you started, and we hope you really enjoy using SNAP Science.